Hello everybody, welcome back to Norwich Talk for another match preview ahead of Norwich City's game tomorrow with Watford at Vicarage Road. It's probably a game that we're not feeling too optimistic in regards to, however I'm going to do my best to fill your system with a little bit of optimism. As you can tell by the title of the video, this is a game that I think is going to provide the best chance for Norwich City in regards to picking up a point or three even between now and the end of the season. I think if we're going to do it, it will be tomorrow. Fingers crossed, famous last words, all that jazz. The first thing I want to say before getting into the lineup and the preview itself in general is that me and Jordan were looking at some stats on the YouTube and we saw that 75% of you who watch these videos aren't already subscribed. So if you could subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing. We'd be incredibly grateful. We do have a goal that we've had for a while now, which is to reach 1,000 subscribers. It'll be a statement of intent from us because I think we do plan on sticking around and creating Norwich City content for a while, and we just sort of want to broaden our horizons and have a general football conversation with Norwich City fans. You know, that was part of the reason behind the rebrand, etc. But yeah, we'd like to sort of up the subscribers as much as we can, get more people involved, get more people in our conversation about Norwich City, because it's just nice to talk about football, isn't it? That's what I enjoy doing. It's why we created this YouTube channel, just to sort of have a chat with different people who you might not meet on the street. To just chat about football. That's the beauty of the game. But yeah, if you could subscribe, we'd be massively grateful to have you stick around. It'd be an honour. But yeah, nonetheless, we'll get into the lineup now. On the screen next to me is going to appear my lineup, which is, I pointed the wrong way there. On the screen next to me is going to be my lineup, which is completely identical to the previous lineup, because that's the lineup I'm going with. It's as simple as that, really. Obviously, you can see Krul, Lewis, Godfrey, Close, Aarons, Teti, Vrancic, Buendia, Stiepermann, Hernandez, and Adam Eder. Now, the reason I've gone for that lineup again is, one, in terms of the back line, you know, that's got to be the same, hasn't it? It has to be between now and the end of the season, providing no one gets any more injuries, and I honestly don't know what I'll do with myself. But Teti and Vrancic is a must. Now, I said this last time, but I do think this will be the game Vrancic starts, because Daniel Farke should sort of point this game out to his players as a game where, right, we can actually win this, because Watford haven't won in 3. I think they've actually lost 3 in a row. So Daniel Farke will be saying to his players, right, this is the time to do it. And I think that will cause Mario Vrancic to start, because this is going to be a game where neither team can really defend, so it's going to be a case of who can outscore the other, which is arguably scary for Norwich, because we've scored 1 goal since the restart, and that was in the FA Cup, so we've scored no Premier League goals. However, a player like Mario Vrancic allows Norwich to play more expansively, allows us to get forward a bit better, in terms of the fact that, as I've said before, he's got this ability to pick a pass. He unleashes the wingers, and Norwich's issue with getting forward is the fact that we're not high up enough on the pitch, in terms of the fact that the wingers are sitting too deep because they have to come and get the ball. Whereas with a player like Mario Vrancic, he has that ability to find them from anywhere, which is such an important way to Norwich play. And his partner Alex Teti will be will play the polar opposite role, in terms of he will protect the back four, which is what he's done for so long. I am concerned at the fact that we can't replace Alex Teti, but as I said before, hopefully I'll be making a video on that in the future. Buendia, Stiepermann, and Hernandez. I think Buendia needs to start just because he's Norwich's most attacking player, and I want to just watch him in a yellow shirt as much as I can before he leaves Norwich, because he won't be here next season. If he is, I'll eat my hat, because he's far too good for Norwich at the moment. I think Brighton proved that. He was pretty decent against Brighton. Him and the guy on the other wing, which is Ono Hernandez, were Norwich's 2 brightest players. Hernandez needs to start this game for me. He's the player who's shown the most heart. He was actually almost in tears after the game, which I don't want to say is nice to see, because you don't want to see a player nearly in tears, but it is pleasing to see the sort of the emotion in Hernandez and how much it means to him, because this is sort of his and a lot of other players' chance to play Premier League football. Who knows if they'll be able to do it again, especially if we get relegated, when we get relegated, that is. But Hernandez needs to start, because, you know, he provides something different to Buendia, which is just raw pace, and he showed against Brighton that he's willing to just get the ball down, get his head down, and just run at defenders, which is something that we've missed for quite a while, which is something Todd Cantwell can't provide. However, Cantwell is injured, which means Hernandez will start this game. Although it is sort of sad that Cantwell can't start the game, because I would like to have seen him in the 10, see him add that to his arsenal in terms of the position that he can play, make him a more versatile player. However, obviously I've got Marco Stiepermann. Now, I'm not really fussed who starts there, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind Lucas Rupp, because, you know, I think the idea of deploying him there is sensible, in terms of Norwich can do a bit more of their dirty work higher up the pitch, as I've already said on this channel. However, I've gone with Stiepermann because you look at players like Kenny McLean, Daniel Farke has paid a lot of faith into a player like McLean. Now I think it's time to pay a little bit into Marco Stiepermann, because I think he's earned it. He's not really had a fair crack this season. There are times this season where he's actually created some decent chances. He actually was quite good against Newcastle, which I think we often forget, although that seems like a lifetime ago now. But his season in the Championship, much like Mario Vrancic, he contributed so many goals and assists, and his exclusion from the starting 11 this season might answer a few questions as to why Norwich haven't scored. Because Vrancic, Hernandez, Stiepermann, I think they all hit double figures in terms of direct goal involvement last season, and they've barely played this season. They've barely had a sniff. I think Vrancic just started 4 Premier League games this season, and he's not really been injured, which is questions need to be asked of Daniel Farke. Why is he making that decision? No doubt he'll have an answer. I'd very much like to know the answer. Will we? I don't think so, to be honest with you. But I do think we need to see Stiepermann there, just to give him a go, to be honest with you, because McLean played the 10 for a little bit, wasn't brilliant. Duda hasn't really covered himself in glory. He was all right against Everton, but I think he's far too lightweight for Norwich City in terms of the fact that Norwich needs someone who will sort of run at players, which Marco Stiepermann likes to do in his weird sort of 6'2" fashion, and Duda just can't really do that. He also can't take set pieces at all. I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't see Duda between now and the end of the season. But yeah, Eden needs to start up front for me. I think that's quite an obvious one. I understand him not starting completely, but I would quite like to see him there. That's a mouthful, but. He's a particularly bright player for Norwich City. I know he'll be important next season in the Championship for Norwich, and it would be nice for him to grab a goal in the Premier League, because he can then add that to his resume. It can be like, right, I've scored a goal in the Premier League, why can't I go and score 30 in the Championship, which theoretically would be nice for him. I believe he could do that. He obviously hit the post against Brighton with an instinctive header, which is nice to see in a 19-year-old, in terms of he's got that natural ability to just sort of find a goal from wherever he is. I was disappointed that didn't go in. I don't think that goal would have affected the result. I think maybe Norwich would have picked up a point, but I wouldn't have been too fussed about that. I would have been more pleased for Adamida that he's got a Premier League goal and been like, right, Mr. Farke, this is why you should be starting me. But yeah, I really don't want to see Josip Dermic, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be disappointed to see Timu Pukki. I just don't want to see Josip Dermic doing nothing up front. Now, quickly, my frustration on Josip Dermic is a bit confused in terms of I'm a little bit... I don't know who to blame for Josip Dermic. I don't know whether it's him being lazy and not doing anything, or if it's the instruction from Daniel Farke, because so often we've pointed the finger at Daniel Farke this season tactically. Is it Josip Dermic's fault that he's not really pressing, or is it Daniel Farke's instruction? I'll be interested to know your thoughts on that in the comments below, because I don't think that's a discussion that we've really had. It's just been, Dermic is rubbish. Is he rubbish, or is he being told to do that, which then is a criticism of Farke? I'm encouraging pointing a finger, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but sometimes you've got to ask them questions in football, don't you? But yeah, that's my thoughts on Norwich. An interesting couple of stats, actually, quickly, from NCFC Numbers, who is a Twitter account that I do sort of browse through before making these videos, because he pulls out some fantastic, really interesting stats. No idea where he gets them from. But yeah, make sure you go and check out that page. You've obviously heard of him, though. But Norwich... Interestingly, they had 8 shots on target at the beginning of the season against Newcastle, and we've had 6 since the restart of Premier League football, which says everything you need to know. In that game against Newcastle, Norwich were just hammering the door down, and 3 goals were inevitable, whereas this season, since the restart, it's been the complete just polar opposite, which is really interesting, and also just tells the story of why we're going down. Another interesting stat as well, which says why we're going down, is that we've had 5 Premier League defeats in a row with no goals. Now, Norwich's thing is supposed to be scoring goals. I thought ahead of this season that we were going to go for the Jurgen Klopp in his early days at Liverpool approach, which was outscoring opposition. You look at this Norwich City team, we were never ever going to keep clean sheets on a regular basis, were we? It was going to be very different to Sheffield United's approach. Quick credit to Sheffield United for doing it really well. But I thought we were going to outscore oppositions. I thought we were going to win a few games 3-2, maybe the 4-3 here and there. But it's been, losing by 3 goals, losing by 2 goals, isn't it? And we've just not scored, which is a problem. Now, I don't have a direct answer to the question of why aren't we scoring goals. However, it's pretty easy to theorise as to why we haven't, in terms of the lack of chances created from players other than Emi Buendia, which is why I want to see the introduction of Mario Vrancic. But that is my sort of general thoughts on Norwich ahead of the game. A quick look at Watford. They're on 6 wins, 1 more win than Norwich City, which is quite interesting for a team as with players as impressive that they have in terms of, I think, Naby Sarr, Delafeu, Etienne Capoue, Ben Foster in goal, Craig Dawson, the Premier League veteran. They've got a very interesting team. It's weird to sort of see them in the mix, although their thing is that they sort of go through managers willy-nilly, so there's never really any stability at the club. Obviously, they've got Nigel Pearson at the moment that they've had since the 6th of December. Now, when he was appointed, I was a bit confused. I really didn't see it as sort of succession planning. I saw that as, right, we'll keep Watford up this season, which I think he'll probably do, although he's probably not doing the best job of it at the moment, although they're at the relegation zone. What more can you ask for? I don't really think that's a successive appointment in terms of I don't think he'll be there for much longer than 18 months, to be quite frank with you, although I don't know Watford like I know Norwich City. Another interesting thing, and the main reason, as I said earlier in the video, as to why I think Norwich will win this game, or it's Norwich's best chance to win this game, I'll say, is that they've lost 3 games in a row, and their confidence will probably be in tatters, much like Norwich City's are. So it'll be a case of who can grab the first goal, and once the first goal is grabbed, that then I think will decide the game. And as we know with Norwich, we've conceded the first goal 20 times now and not won a game. So if we concede the first goal, it's game over, isn't it? But if we can grab that first goal, who knows? I don't think Watford will have the character to bounce back from it, which is a pretty bold statement. Something else that I find interesting, which I'll finish on, is that they obviously beat Liverpool before the break. In football, I think they lost to Palace the following week, which is also very Norwich City. You look at beating Manchester City and then losing to, I think it was Palace, or it might have been Burnley after. You know, the teams have a lot in common. But interestingly, they beat them, and their chairman said it's because of the crowd. Now, I think that's something I completely agree with. I think Norwich have the crowd, have a massive impact on Norwich and in football in general for these teams at the bottom of the table. Now, without a crowd there for Watford, without a crowd there for Norwich, I don't really know what way this game's going to go. It's going to be played off raw technical ability, which sort of scares me, because you look at players like Deulofeu, a player who ripped Norwich apart in the meeting at Carrow Road earlier in the season. So in that regard, I think Watford probably have the edge over Norwich, because they have these 20-30 million pound players riddled throughout their squad, don't they, which I think will play in their favour. However, it is very interesting that I share the same beliefs with the Watford chairman, who said that football will not be the same without the crowd. The reason they beat Liverpool is because of the crowd. I draw a comparison with, I already drew the comparison with Norwich and Manchester City, which is an interesting thing, really. So I think in terms of like personnel, Watford probably hold the edge over Norwich City. Well, I think every team in the Premier League hold the edge over Norwich City, bar maybe Aston Villa, although they've beaten us twice, so who knows. But they're my general thoughts. I think Norwich will win, because I'm filled with that pre-match giddy optimism that I get before every match, where it's like, oh, here we go again. I'm sure Norwich can do it today. No doubt 10 minutes into the match, that will probably change into just dread and fear, to be honest with you, as it always does. But yeah, I think Norwich, if they're going to win a game between now and the end of the season, it is this one, because Watford one win more than us. I think they're 7 points ahead of us, which says a lot about Norwich. I think they've drawn 10 games, which is the difference between a team like Watford and Norwich, in the fact that these losses they can turn into a point every now and again, which is why they're well ahead of Norwich. So that's a credit to Watford in itself. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect from this game. It's going to be an interesting one to watch nonetheless. I'm braced for disappointment, as I have been since the restart, to be honest with you. But yeah, that is just about everything for this video. Make sure you look in the description box down below as ever for all the socials and stuff. If you could subscribe to the channel, we would be very, very grateful. If you could comment your thoughts as well, I'd love to engage in conversation and have a little chat about Norwich before the game. Make sure you like the video as well. And here's the 3 potential points against Watford. Until next time, we'll see you again very, very soon.